afternoon, beautiful beings of light. Welcome to the Crone Zone Conversations with Ancients. My name's Priscilla, and I am here with my friend Heather and my phone that's talking, and Kigaru Terri. She's here today to talk about Terri's Tales. So welcome, Terri. So happy to have you here with us today.
Yeah, thanks for coming.
Thank you so much for being here.
Yeah.
And I'm excited to hear what tales you have to tell today. It's always fun.
You are such a good storyteller.
Oh,
She is.
I am just so happy and that you guys will let me tell my crazy tales. So
We all think they're fascinating.
yeah. Well, it's just what I imagine, what I'm seeing out there, what I'm experiencing, and I have a big imagination. So
Me too. Me too.
You know, you call it your imagination, but we both know that it's real.
it's spirit. Yeah.
It's
Sure.
spirit and it's real. I really thought that the things that I would feel or see or know, I'd made it up. I thought for years I was making it all up.
Yeah,
Except
I
for
thought
I
I
don't
had-
have a great imagination, so it couldn't be because there are things I would never even think of.
Yeah, and I always thought it was all imagination. Of course, everybody poo-pooed everything. So,
As children, yeah, you're told that. Hi,
and
Amanda.
not even
Carroll.
as children, more than that. So,
Yeah.
Mhm.
yeah.
Hi, Perrette. Perrette, I know that you live in an area that might have gotten hit from the hurricane. I hope everything is safe there. Hi, Laurie. Hypnicity.
Yeah.
Welcome, everybody. Today's Terri's Tales. This is the friends that are snowbirds that live down here in the winter and live in Maine on the coast in the summertime. So guess what? They're getting a hurricane in Maine.
Yeah.
Wow. In Maine,
It's only a
that's way
tropical
high up.
storm now, and
They
I
have-
don't think the winds are that bad right now. But it's just interesting that they run from hurricane season in Key West, and now they're
Yeah,
getting
that's what I said. Leave Key West and you still get hurricanes. Yeah,
It's
that's what I thought
crazy.
was funny. Did you see the purple sky pictures that she sent on Facebook?
I did.
They're
They were
gorgeous.
pink and purple. They were beautiful.
Mm. Well, I want to say hi real quick to Hypnicity and Amanda Carroll. They're in my area.
I see 'em.
They're having a good day too. It's sunny and beautiful here, but not hot.
Oh, that's
Yeah.
nice for a change. It's still hot here.
It's a little bit chilly here, but it's not bad. A sweater for the afternoon. The morning, I needed my jacket.
I saw that Colorado got their first bit of snow today.
Where?
It was down at Pike.
Well, not in Denver anyway.
It was down. No, it's in the mountains.
It's in the mountains. That's good. Still
Yeah.
season for
First snow of the year. I think they were talking about Pikes Peak, which is Colorado
Yeah.
Springs.
right.
But cool. So I guess I'm going to turn it over to you, Terri, and backstage we were talking about a couple of different things that I think everybody will find super interesting. So I'm going to give you the floor.
Yeah, it's yours.
Well, I hope everybody will find these interesting.
They will.
So as you both know, I've been going on the weekends to these in-person fairs quite often. And I find that at these in-person fairs that the strength of my connection to them and to spirit is really strong. I mean,
Interesting.
even
Yes.
stronger than normal. And
What do you mean by normal? Normally you're reading on YouTube,
on
right?
Zoom or on
Yeah.
YouTube.
So
Yeah.
in person
Yeah,
would
but-
be stronger. I would
Yeah,
think.
and when you're in person, because I've done it too, you're with a group of like people, and the
Yeah.
energy
So
is so high to start with that making the connection does
Right.
That makes
make it
sense.
a little easier.
Right. I find that when I'm at these fairs, I can feel like a vibration in I'm not shaking. You won't see me shake, but I can feel that connection and I'm just vibrating and
That's cool.
Yeah,
yeah.
it's like me in the ley lines. I stand there and I know,
Oh.
why is the earth shaking? Why is this building shaking? Nobody else is feeling it, but I can.
Wow.
I know. Isn't
That's
that
cool.
interesting?
Yeah.
Well, it's kind of disconcerting. I'm going, okay, I'm on the top floor. That's okay. If I collapse, I'm on top.
I don't want to think about collapsing.
No,
Yeah.
me neither. And I'm beginning to like this place. So
Oh, and Hypnisty, who has met me at these fairs before, she says she feels dizzy in the fairs sometimes. I don't, yeah, I can imagine that that so many people are connecting to spirit, so many people are of like mind that it is this,
the
you can really
frequency.
feel it.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. That's
Yeah.
cool.
You have
Yeah.
to be used to that kind of a frequency, not to, well, I don't even feel it, but
Hmm. Yeah, it's,
but you know it's up there.
I really feel it, but I'm always surprised that sometimes when I'm reading somebody at those that I'm thinking I'm as high as I'm going to get, and then they amp the volume just a little bit more for some readings.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. So I thought today I would talk a little bit about reading past lives because I have recently been to a fair in Ocean Shores, Washington, and I got to read quite a lot of people. They were on vacation, but people who lived there. And I think it's a slightly underserved community. I don't think they have a whole lot of psychic mediums there. Um, so it was kind of fun to get to read people that were a little newish. Um, so the first reading that really stood out to me is there was this couple. They were probably late 30s. They were so lovey-dovey. Oh my God. You know, they were the husband and wife. You could just tell they just loved each other so much. And they had come to one of my other talks too. So that was nice. So I already knew them a little bit, but they were just the man was actually one other person read him and said he was like a knight. He was a knight to protect
Wow.
her. And she was just coming into her gifts. They had kind of come forward about 3 years before, but they scared her and she kind of backed off, but she was starting to come into them. And they were brave and they said they were the first ones up to the microphone saying, "Have we ever been in a past life together?" Because they felt
Oh, I
like,
got chills.
and I just, I thought, okay, I'm going to do it. And when I'm at these fairs, I'm also teaching people, like, I say this little mantra. It's not magic. It's just something to make me train my mind and, get on track. And as soon as before I even kind of finished with the little mantra, I suddenly found myself, I could hear the jingle of horses' harnesses, the creaking of the leather, the jingling of chains, the clopping of hooves. And when I opened my eyes inside, I'm not actually there, uh, I saw myself standing in front of horses and wagons. There was a team of horses that were sorrel in color. Oh, for all you Easterners, chestnut color. In the West, we call it sorrel, the red horses, And it was a big dray wagon. And I saw him. He was the owner of the wagons, and he was a successful businessman. I could tell that he moved cargo around, but he also had some things to move people around, but not fancy ones. Like it's not like he ever moved the royal family or anything like that. This was every workaday people. And I saw and just knew that he had earned the right to park his horse and wagon on this sidewalk, that this was his area, that he had finally, came up in the ranks and earned it. And I was thinking, okay, well, there he is. And suddenly there's a door in this big stone brick building opens up, and there she comes out. And
Oh,
she's holding laundry. Her mother is a laundress. And because she's a widow, and it's the only job she could do. And she was just as beautiful and as loving as I saw her in this life. Just I could just instantly, even though she didn't look the same, I instantly knew it was her. She just had this beautiful, beautiful spirit, which was the same spirit she was showing me at at the at the fair. And so she came out and she talked to him. And so they made it a point to say hi to each other. She wasn't flirty. She wasn't over the top. She wasn't, she just was nice. And he was not, he was nice too. He wasn't like, you know, trying to, get her to make out with him or anything like that. They were both just doing everything they had to do at that time in that life. And they just showed me how that eventually this connection grew, him having to be able to park his horses there, her, moving the laundry around and about, just saying hi and talking to him. And eventually they fell in love and they got married. So they indeed had a life together. And it felt like a really good life too. It felt like that, all lives are bumpy but it was completely as heartfelt as they felt. That's
that's lovely.
yeah.
And
Yeah.
this was like in England or somewhere like that?
Yeah, about England, probably about early 1800s, maybe late 17s. But
Yeah.
I could tell where I was. I could tell, you know,
Oh, fascinating.
I could smell the horses. I could hear the clippy clop of their feet shuffling around. And
I love that.
it was very, very there, really
Mhm.
there. So that one was so much fun. And it was so much fun to see love continuing through life.
Yeah.
So that I just love that. But right after I read that life, another lady in the audience got brave enough. She had never really thought about asking this thing, but she almost kind of just blurted it out, kind of like, I wonder if something has happened in my past life to cause the problems that I'm having in this current life. And she was about my age, probably late 50s, early 60s. And I didn't even like close my eyes or say my thing. And my guides hopscotched me through 3 lives right away. So the first life they took me to was in the 1920s about, and I saw her as a little girl and crouching on the floor because I see this big hand coming at her, going to hit her. Clearly that she was really physically abused, hit,
Mhm.
just afraid to speak out. I could see her kind of scuttling around, trying to stay away, trying not to do anything to
Be
cause,
invisible.
somebody to hit her. And I no more than saw that than they just yanked me up and leapfrogged me into about the 1800s. And she was a man. I found her in England this time because I think the other one was in America. And it was a man, and he was in England, and he was a mid level government bureaucrat. But he was in such a way that he had a lot of people above him and people below him. And the people above him were very cruel to him, very cruel, very like, so his job was to analyze what was happening in the government, to give the lords and the peers good information to help make policy. But it was very much like today. We want to hear what we want to hear, not what, But so his life was really rough. He was really afraid to speak out, like no matter what he said, it's going to be wrong. And he didn't have it in him to be mean to the people below him. And yet, if he really wanted to get ahead, he pretty much had to be mean to those people, you know? So that was interesting. And I no more than knew that. And then they hopscotched me one more time to the 1700s, and she was a woman again, and she was a pastor's wife. She was, some religious person's wife. And again, so I could tell her spirit was very cognizant of spirit, of God, which was probably a little rare back then. And that she knew that anything she said or did could harm people, could harm their growth or harm their spiritual connections. And yet it was her job to spout the rhetoric, to say what her religion said, even though I could tell she didn't quite believe it. It was her job to, let unwed mothers know how awful they were. And yet she didn't believe it, you know. And so again, she finds herself not in fear and not giving voice to what,
Not being able to speak her truth.
right. So I'm out of it right then and there. And I'm like, okay, guys, put it together, And again, as anyone in the audience could guess, it was about that she couldn't speak her truth, that she was having trouble communicating because of fear, and that this had held her back in 3 different lives, getting successfully bigger and more important in those lives. And so I asked Spirit, so what's to be done? Because I don't want to just tell somebody something like that.
What do we
Like,
do to fix it?
There you go. Struggle all
next.
on your own there now. So I asked, what is to be done? And they said, oh, we know she can heal this herself. And I'm like, oh, good. Do tell us how.
Yeah.
And they said, what we want her to do is we want her to, in her spare time, when she's meditating or praying or having quiet time, they wanted her to imagine each of these lives, maybe one at a time, and imagine it. They said she doesn't have to see it the way you saw it. So if she doesn't see herself as a child cringing, but as a child maybe mute, however she sees these lives is okay. And she is to take her spirit of now and go talk to them. Hey, little girl, everything's going to be fine. What's going to happen is going to, basically go and talk to each of these 3 different lives and tell them that she's here. She's alive. She made it through all of this. And thank you for your hard work during those times. Thank you for believing in me and allowing me to happen, anyway, but she could just self-heal it by going back and talking to herself and telling them that it's okay.
Interesting. Because that's really shadow work does that too. You go back to your inner child and talk to your inner child in those spots. So that makes sense.
Yeah. Well, I think that's exactly what they were telling her to do a little shadow work there and to just be
my understanding is a lot of times that when you go back to a past life and you get that information, that's healing in itself. Is that can actually heal you right there. It's just saying, oh, that's where it came from. It doesn't need to. It's not mine anymore. It was that life. It doesn't belong to me, and you can heal from that.
I think that's true as well, and I think maybe they just had to give her something to work at.
Yeah.
So that was lovely because it was fairly easy, and the nice thing was she was able to give feedback. She said, that is exactly my problem. I'm having problem with fear and communication. And I'm like, wow, okay, good.
Oh, it feels good to get it right.
Yes, it does. It does.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
You want to say hi to some people out there that have joined us recently, like Terri at Holding Your Space, and Tina Mack, and Aquila. Hi, Aquila, and Patricia Franzino. Welcome, everybody.
Yeah.
Patricia says she recently released the effects of a past life through a regression. Oh, I highly recommend past life regressions. They're phenomenal. I agree. Amazing healing goes on.
I just want to make sure people understand that when I'm reading past lives, it's not regression. I'm just seeing the past life and I'm a narrator. I'm narrating it of what they're showing me. But regression is wonderful too. Absolutely wonderful.
I think either way, it works, can be healing, whether it's through a medium or through hypnosis, regression
Right,
hypnosis. You're
right,
still going to that quantum field. And that's
right.
where the
Right.
healing takes place, is the quantum field.
Yeah,
Yeah.
So
yeah.
cool.
I've had good and bad experiences with past regressions, but
Mm,
in general, I think it's a good idea.
mhm. I have had a regression once because I thought I should check this out a little bit, and it was interesting, and
Yeah,
it was it tied into all the questions I wanted to have answered. But I didn't ask the question. I asked the one question at the beginning, and then they showed me two lives that completely tied in.
right.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
it's
that
interesting.
happened for me too.
Hmm. Oh, and Patricia Franzino says she used a CD
Mhm.
release. Um, yeah, I actually did my first past life regression through a YouTube video by Dr. Brian Weiss. He's like the
Oh,
king of
he's the
regression.
king of regression.
Yeah, yeah. And it was just a quick short one, but it was fun and it was really good.
Well, Heather and I both did QHHT regressions, quantum healing hypnosis technique regressions, with a girl named, it just went out of my head, Kazame.
Oh, I'm not really
And
sure.
she's written several books about, like, the Sphinx, the Sarah Breskman Cosme is her name. Anyway, she was a student of Dolores Cannon.
Mm,
And I do believe in Dolores Cannon's work,
yeah,
and I believe in those kinds of regressions.
right.
Yeah,
Uh,
those were interesting. But I've also done one where I was just laying on a couch and somebody took me back. You know, it wasn't.
Yeah, I did one of those too, but it left me upset. It
mm,
Yeah,
never got cleared out until the next day. Somebody else did it.
wow.
yeah. It's,
That's why I
but in
said
that
I've
one,
had
I
good
wasn't either.
experiences and bad experiences, but I really like Dolores Cannon's work.
Yeah.
I
So
think
the person who hypnotized me and did the regression was a student of Dolores Cannon. So,
yeah,
yeah. Yeah. So it was very gentle, very gentle.
Very gentle.
very gentle, and you're not left feeling all that stuff without getting rid of it.
Hmm.
So it
Yeah.
is a healing.
Yeah.
Leaving it in that life, not bringing it forward into this life the
Right.
way that it's done. Yeah,
Yeah.
true.
Well, I thought I would also talk about another past life regression where they hopscotched me through a bunch of lives suddenly.
That's cool.
So, yeah, I know.
Yeah, it
So
is.
It's
another,
interesting how you can see past lives with the way that your guides take you through things, that you can read past lives of other people.
I,
I find
I,
that incredible.
yeah, I have always been able to. Recently, I learned how to read the Akashic records of others, but
Mhm,
that's just like maybe 2 weeks ago. And
mhm.
I've always had the permission to go ahead and do that. Like one time I was reading with someone else and I asked for permission and they immediately granted it. But after that, I never had to ask permission again. I just say she'd like to, they'd like to see a past life. Will you show us the most important thing for her or him right now? What life
I
do they
think
need?
that's super important to remember. What is the most important past life for me to know about right now?
Right.
Right.
That type of question needs,
Yeah.
because you could go into some random lives that are just like nothing, that
Right.
mean nothing. So it's super
Right.
important to make sure you
Yeah.
ask for those. Yeah.
Yeah. I definitely believe not in reading past lives for voyeuristic purposes. Of course, it's fun to see them and all that, but that's not the reason we do it. The
Mm-mm.
reason we do it is to learn.
Absolutely.
And I do believe there's some lives that wouldn't be that exciting, because I remember reading one lady, and this is the one where they showed me her past lives as a layer cake, all different colors of layer cake.
Cool.
And they asked her to pick one, just pick one. And so the one she picked took us right back to like the 11th century in France. And it was
Wow.
really interesting. But because I always ask, like, what did they learn in that part? What do they bring forward to what are the strengths or weaknesses brought forward, and what do they need to worry about? They told us right away, but I asked, because I only saw like 9 layers on the cake, and I'm like, did she only live 9 times? And they said,
The
oh, no,
9
no, no.
most important.
Yeah, there's a no, no, no. She lived many more times, especially before this. And they said, but those are not very important. She was just learning to operate the body. And I'm like,
All right.
okay. So so maybe it takes us a few go rounds to operate the
Huh.
body properly. So
Interesting.
Yeah.
yeah.
Thank you, Gina, for putting Terry's channel up. I appreciate it. Her information is also in the description of the video.
Yeah, thanks, Gina. So the next one that I saw, so this person asked this very differently. She came and said, as a child, I was terrified of tall buildings. And she said, but about at age 15, my father healed me. I don't know if he talked her through it or whatever, and she said, I would really like to know what was going on. Why did I have this fear, and how did it get healed? And so again, they hopscotched me like boom, 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 right through lives. And so the first one, I saw her like way in time, like I would say 12th or 13th century. And I saw her fall off a cliff as a young woman. She was just out doing what they do, or, herding sheep or whatever. And she just fell off a cliff and died. And then I saw her, the next one, they just leapfrogged me forward a bit. I would say about 16th century, maybe. And I saw her as a young woman looking up at a beheading. There was a beheading up on a big platform way above her. She's looking up. It looks very, very tall, and the head gets chopped off, and it looks like it's going to roll at her, and she's terrified.
Yeah, I
And
would
then,
be too.
I know that would
That
be
sounds horrendous.
that would
It
not be
does.
good. And then they hopscotched me again, close to that time, actually. It wasn't too far away time-wise, where that she was just a person who worked the land for a very, very wealthy landowner, and he had very tall, stone buildings. And he was cruel. It just always felt like when they were called into the yard of wherever they were kind of mustering to get ready to go to work, these tall, imposing buildings scared her. He scared her. He walked around with a sword on his hip, and she knew that if her dad or her brothers or herself got out of line, off with the head, without any court proceedings or anything like that. That she knew
Yeah.
she was very, very vulnerable. And so they showed me those right away, and they just showed me how the kindness of her father, talking to her. I believe she told me that he was an architect, and so he talked to her also about how buildings are made, and a little bit about the mystery, what's underneath all that stone, what's holding things up. And I think that just helped. I think it was just his love for her that healed her.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's great.
Yeah.
That sound like 3 horrendous lives.
Yeah,
Poor girl.
they weren't that lovely, but I'm sure she had other lives between them that were better. I would hope.
I would think.
Yeah.
I just think we've all experienced, from what I understand from spirit, we've all experienced those things.
Mhm.
We've all been the bad guy, been the good guy.
Yeah.
We've experienced everything because that's our job here is to experience everything, whether we think it's good or bad, to take back
Mhm.
to the collective.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Because
But I'm glad I'm not having a life like that. I'm
yes.
just very happy I don't have a life like that.
Yeah. But think about it. If we were up in heaven lounging around, we can't experience any of that. We
Anything.
experience nothing bad at all.
It's
So
all
I
very
have,
good.
yeah, I have a feeling we're all just adventurers and we're on an
Mhm.
adventure right now. So
I think so too.
yeah.
Patricia, we aren't taking questions today, are we?
Uh,
We can
we'll
take
see.
we can take questions about what we're
Oh,
talking about, but we're not doing past life readings.
Yeah, we're not, but maybe someday we could do that. And that's fun to do.
Well, yeah, last week in practice, we were doing quite a bit of past life work.
Yeah. Yeah,
That was pretty interesting.
I got Aquila. I got to read Aquila's past life. That was fun.
That's cool. I think
Yeah.
Akila's here too. I think I saw her
yes, I
earlier.
think I saw her name.
Yeah.
Okay, let me put. There we go.
Okay. So, I was trying to think what else can I talk about? What's important today? And so I also thought about that I'd like to tell people about the Akashic records a bit because
Akila's is amazing.
yeah, I have recently learned to read other people's Akashic records. I was reading on Allie Martin's 10 o'clock Heart and Soul Connected channel with Val Klingenbeck, and she teaches classes in it. And she teaches it in the most amazing way. It's so simple. She makes it so simple. I could always read my own Akashic
Hmm.
records, which again, another YouTube hypnosis thing.
Hmm.
Um, but so I took her class. It was just lovely. And it was affordable because usually those things are not very affordable and it's simple. She has simplified how to do this.
Cool.
And it was only a 2-hour class. And
Is this Dragonfly Val?
yes,
Dragonfly Krista? Okay,
yep.
cool.
And by the second hour, you were reading the Akashic records. All of us were, even the people who were newbies, because people
Wow.
look at me and they think, oh, well, she's already got it going on. Of course she can do
Yeah.
it. And actually, you'd be wrong. I'm a student, just like anybody else is a student. And when I go into that, I don't know if I'm going to be able to do it or not.
Hmm.
But this worked really well. I will have to tell you that I went into the Oracle of Whimsy's remote viewing classes, failed out, failed out. It's not
Ooh.
it's not a lock that I'm going to do well in class. I'm just like
Yeah.
everybody else.
Yeah. Okay,
So
we do have a question real quick. I don't know if you can answer that question or not.
I was told by a reader I was beheaded and I
Have
haven't.
I released the effects of that life?
Hmm. Hmm. Well, I don't know, because I'm not tuned in right now. And I would, for Akashic record reading, I have to actually say a little key. There's a
Okay.
little prayer you have to say. But what I would say is that I would take the advice that they gave the lady that I read at the show, where that maybe you go, when you're meditating or praying, maybe go back and imagine what might happen with the beheading and go and talk to that person, go and talk to you before it happened and tell her that it's all right. And I
Kind of
bet,
like that was the advice you gave the other lady, or
yeah,
spirit gave the other
yeah.
lady. That makes sense.
So I'm just taking spirit's advice. They're not telling me that right now, but I think I would do that, you know. Go
It
ahead
makes
and
sense.
because
If we can go
remember,
back to our inner child and our childhood, why not go back to a previous life and talk to that person
right,
and find out? Yeah.
right. But also, we are creators. Why not go back as a creator and fix yourself? So this is what I want to tell everybody. That kind of good segue here. What I
Okay.
want to tell people about the Akashic records that just blew my mind is you can do healing in the Akashic records. It blows my mind because when your Akashic records masters let you know that something needs to be healed, then you heal it forever. You heal it backwards in time,
Backwards and forwards.
forwards in time, dimensionally sideways. I mean, up any direction you could think of your life going, it's healed in
Wow.
all of those
I
forever.
think we're all going to be on Terry's channel
Yeah,
asking for
yeah.
Akashic readings and healings.
Um, and also, it's healed in another way as well, because this is how she taught us. It's healed for the good of humanity and to restore you back to your highest timeline.
Wow.
That just blows me away.
That does blow me away.
Yeah. I
Wow.
am, yeah. So I know that a lot of people, they go get the Akashic records and they want to find out about past lives, but that's not the only reason. Or they want to hear about any uh ET lives, but that's not the only reason either. So these healings are an amazing thing. So I'll tell you about I I have been experimenting on my friends. Any friend that'll hold still long enough for me to read them, or agree to meet me on Zoom at a certain time. I've been practicing, and so I have a friend here that goes to the fairs, and I said, hey, let me read you, because he's kind of really weird and funky, and I'm like, yeah, let's see what happens, you know. And he said, what I want to know, because when you read the Akashic records, you get to set the question, you get
Mhm.
to talk. And so he said, when I want to know who I was and what I did in my last past life. He said, until I was 4 years old, I could remember that past life completely clearly. I knew my name. I was an engineer. He didn't say it at this time, but he said I knew things I shouldn't know. I would go to like preschool and tell the teachers how to fix something,
Wow.
and they'd be like, a 4-year-old can't know that. They can't know how to do that. But it always worked. And he said, I also was aware of the life between lives. I was aware of myself in heaven, picking my life with my higher self. And so he said, I would like to know if all, who was, could I see that again? So I went in. Now, here's the different thing about the Akashic records. When I'm reading online on YouTube, I'm going in to, I believe now, the quantum field, the Akashic field. It's all around us.
Hmm.
I'm not going into somebody's Akashic records when I'm reading on YouTube, but I'm in that field. I think
Hmm.
that's how we do what we're doing.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah. And so when I went, so when I'm reading on YouTube, there's always a tiny bit of, did I really see that? Did I really hear? Yeah, there's a tiny bit of iffiness about it. Like, have I really interpreted this correctly? But when you're over there in the Akashic records, there's no iffiness. It is. It just is. All I have to do is open my mouth and say what they're saying, or it's very interesting that way.
Hmm. Very
No,
direct.
no hesitancy.
Right.
And
That's cool.
anyway, I knew right from the get-go. He was born in 1927. He was born to a farming couple out in the Midlands somewhere in America. He was an only child, and they loved him dearly. And he had a wonderful life on the farm. And farm kids often have a hard life, but he did work hard, but it wasn't that hard of a life because they loved him so much. And they made sure he got education and things like that. And then about 1942, he had to go to World War II. So he enlisted, went to World War II. His platoon, the people around him, adored him because farm kids can fix anything. So if something went wrong, he could fix it. And he was brave. They loved him because he was brave. He never let them down, and he also could see when there were better processes, like if something was a waste of time and energy and that they could do it better, he was able to point those things out, but in a nice way because he was such a lovely individual, he didn't have to get in anybody's face.
Right.
And so when the war ended, then they asked him to sign up and stay on base and because they wanted to keep his, at this point, they started calling him, the Akashic Record Master started calling him an engineer, a genius engineer. And then they showed me that he got in a Jeep wreck on base and he hurt his right hip. He hurt his hip that it made him, it hurt to walk for the rest of his life. And he did have to leave the military, but he still was this genius engineer creating stuff. And I know that there's at least one patent in his name that he earned the patent. He never married. His friends from the not from the army, whatever military line he was in, visited him all of his life. He was still just adored by everyone around him. And he died. And so I was prepared then to kind of keep going on, but the guide stopped me and asked me a question because I thought it only went one way. That I asked them questions. And
who knew?
I didn't know.
No, I wouldn't have thought.
Yeah, so they said, ask him if he would like to remember. Ask him if he would like us to restore these connections for him to remember both of these places, the life and the life between. And they said there is a few things he has to worry about. If he suddenly gets a big head and becomes the most knowledgeable person about the Akashic records, we will yank this right away from him again. But if he would like it restored and would like to be able to see that again, we would do that. And so he agreed to do it. And I saw the most miraculous thing. So in this life that kind of looked like an illustrated timeline, I saw a hand come in like this and go to the beginning. And it started to draw these white, it looked like spider webs. Or I had just saw something on YouTube about how that they pull silk out of the lotus stems. And it was like that. They were pulling these silken threads, hundreds of these silken threads, pulling it through his life and then connecting it to this life.
Wow.
And
oh, that's phenomenal.
I know it was, and I know it happened. I mean, they did say it'll be slowly remembering, not just like boom remembering.
You couldn't have it all just zap in your head. You'd be overwhelmed.
Right.
Wow.
Yeah. But for some reason, for me, reading the Akashic records is really physical. Really physical. I got so hot from my head down, just hot. And not like a hot flash hot, like hot. But
Mhm.
anyway, so I will keep checking in with him to
Oh,
see
yeah, I wanna know
if
more
he's
about this guy
remembered
and how that
about this
goes.
more.
Yeah,
But
that sounds interesting.
yeah, but I did ask him for feedback. Like, how does that sound to you? Do you feel like we actually went into your records and read? He's like, yeah, I think so. He said, I remember some of that now. It brought it up.
Wow.
Wow, look at this oil painter.
Yeah.
Wow.
Hi, Diana. She says, "Terry, that's one of the things I do when weaving energy and moving energies." Wow, that's
Wow.
pretty cool.
Yeah. Yeah. It was very, very, very interesting. Um, so that's just one healing. I had, there's been a couple other healings, and somebody was reading mine because, you know, we got to practice. They got to
Mhm.
have willing victims, you know. So, and I asked for the connection. I've had a past life in Japan, and I asked for the language connection to be restored because
Oh, cool.
I do speak a little Japanese and read and write Japanese a little bit, but it's it's just it feels like it should just fall out of my mouth. Like I should just like without any instruction, I should just be able to speak it. And I am going to probably find myself going back to Japan this winter a lot. So I would really like to do better. So I've
So you've asked them, do you think it's
yeah.
happening?
Uh
Good.
yes, I feel like
No, he's going to do much better.
yeah.
You're
I,
going to do
I
much better.
Yeah, I've gotten better. I mean, they told the person reading my record she still has to practice. It's not like this is instantaneous and you get to laze your way through it. So I've been practicing and doing lessons, and it does seem easier. And it does seem like I have been able to think of like how to respond to somebody on the fly
On the
rather
fly
than
faster.
5 minutes later trying to think what I'm supposed to say.
Right. Oh,
You're
that's
speaking in
awesome.
Japanese.
Yeah. So
That's exciting.
yeah, I'll keep reporting on it. And
That's good.
I hope so. That's really amazing. I love
Yeah.
it.
yeah. So um let's
So now
see.
we're getting healings through Akashic Records reading. That's some, that has something to do with the veil thinning to me. Just seems like
Yeah.
all these things are becoming more and more available to more and more people. I mean, how many people used to read the Akashic Records? You could probably count them on one hand.
Mhm.
Right,
And now
right.
it's
And so,
open.
you know, one thing that I noticed that Val says that is something that my past teacher, Susan Lynn, often said is, you know, I had questioned Susan a little bit about like how many psychic mediums do they need? And her answer is always all of them, all of them. And she used to
That's
say,
true. I
we are
agree.
going to need all of them because as the veil gets really, really thin and somebody goes into their kitchen and then sees dead Uncle Bubba making a sandwich, they're going to want to talk to you.
That's true. I agree. Yeah.
Yeah.
And Val, her answer, I was kind of like, how many people do they need to read the psychic records? And she's all of them, all of them.
I love it. I love it.
But fancy that you should talk about speeding up because that, if we had a little bit of time, that was what I was going to talk about a little
We
bit.
have time.
I have noticed things are speeding up. Oh my gosh. It used to be that if somebody wanted to talk to a relative that had passed on rather recently, and I'm by recently, I mean less than 6 months, it was hard to do. And I always thought maybe it was hard to do because I have to go through the sitter's spirit to get to that spirit, and maybe their grief was too heavy to go through or something. But I have been experiencing this very, very differently, where the people have only got there like a week and they are
Wow.
right here, man.
Mhm.
I think the veil is very, very thin. I fully expect to see dead Uncle Bubba in the kitchen making a sandwich soon, um, because it's
Interesting.
so thin. And they're just coming in strongly, not not weakly, not confused, not, I mean, it's
Yeah,
been different. It's speeding
that is
up.
different.
Yeah. Yeah, I've seen
Yeah.
it speed up. And then I was going to say the other thing that I feel has changed. So I feel like there's some changes underway, big changes, is what I call third party readings. So what I would term a third party reading is where somebody says, I'd like a reading for my sister who isn't here so I can give her a message from her dead husband, her husband who's just passed or something. I usually wouldn't do those
Yeah, I
because,
would think it would be hard.
right, hard. Plus, I always thought maybe you're supposed to have permission from the sister. Maybe the sister doesn't agree with this stuff, or so I generally don't do them.
I just don't think that you would connect if you weren't allowed. I don't. I
I
think asking permission is odd because
I
spirit's
think
going to let you. They're either going to put a stop. No, you're not going to get that information, or or the information's going to be open. It just depends on whether it.
Mhm. I think
You
you're
know, it's
absolutely
all
right.
regarding spirit. Spirit's in charge, not us.
Right. I think you're so right there, and I think yeah. I have read people before, like we were practicing reading over time, and there were a couple times in her life where they put up a block, a shield that I couldn't see the light, like
Uh-huh.
a little wall.
Mhm.
And I knew that I
And that's
actually
the
had the
sitter. Yeah.
yeah, I had the spiritual wherewithal to remove it if I really wanted to. But I thought, if they put it there, they put it there for a reason. I am not going to mess with that.
Right.
I'm going to honor that.
Yeah.
And it was so funny because she told me later on, she said, those 3 years you couldn't see, I was involved with a cult, and I would have been so embarrassed for you to see me.
Wow.
And I'm like, wow, okay, good. I didn't take that down, and didn't try
Hmm.
anything. But that's so even with these third party readings, the first time I encountered it, I was at a fair, and a woman came in and she said, my husband's in a care facility right now. He has been unable to care for himself for about 4 years now. I now know from him being in the care facility to recover a little bit, I can't take care of him anymore. It's killing me to do this. But he won't agree. He won't talk about it. He won't do anything. And so I kind of just consulted the spirits, like, what can we do here? And they are like, yeah, we can do this. We can heal this. And I'm like, okay, well, what do we do? And they told me we want her to imagine holding his hand really tight, but really, really put her imagination there as if he's in the hospital bed and she's holding his hand really tight. And then they proceeded to do a healing,
Awesome.
to pour in a little. They always, for me, they have a drop of liquid and they pour it into the person. They poured it into him. They poured it into her. It was sage green. I remember they poured it into her head. I saw it travel through her body, through her
Your
hands into
hand.
him, and
Wow.
then his body fill up. Now, whenever they do these healings, they often then tell me, usually what they tell me is, it's going to happen slowly, because you got to get used to it. And when it's ever healings about love, it's like it's going to happen slowly, so you don't meet a jerk in the lobby as you're leaving, you know.
Yeah.
But this time they surprised me because they said this is happening fast. In fact, if she wants to, right after this, she can go to the care home he's in and talk about it with him, and he will be able to talk. I'm like,
Wow.
I did not have cards that day. I so want that lady to call me. I really want to know what happened.
Was
Um,
this at a fair?
yes, this was at a fair. Yeah,
Oh
so
yeah.
maybe she'll contact me at some point. But that was fabulous. But that was basically third party. I didn't have the permission of that man to put this healing into him,
That's
but
what I'm
yet,
saying. Spirit's the one that knows whether the healing is appropriate for him.
correct. Yeah.
We don't know that.
Mm-hmm.
Spirit knows
Yes.
that.
Yeah. And then
Because there are many people that Heather and I worked on when we were doing our healing work.
mhm.
And we knew there were things that we couldn't heal. That she would see it, well, she would see black.
Right.
She
Wow.
would see black. And then we knew that that was either
I
going
could
to
try to
really,
take some stuff out so they'd be more comfortable, but it wasn't anything that we could heal.
Right.
so
Wow.
we knew.
We knew when we couldn't touch it.
Right. How interesting. That is
Mhm.
fascinating. I was going to mention one more thing. I was on.
Hold on a minute. This
Sure.
is important. I've heard it's fair game to ask about close family, but perhaps not coworkers, etc. How do you feel about that?
That makes sense.
Okay, say my mailman just came. Say my mailman was a jerk to me, and he's not. My mailman's lovely, but say my mailman's a real jerk, and I ask you, what can I do to make my mailman be nicer to me? Is that a fair question? That's kind of a
It's
coworker.
a fair question under the Akashic records because you're asking about you. What can I do to make him
Oh,
not?
okay.
Yeah. Yeah. So that's another thing back to the Akashic real quick is that it's how you ask the question.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It's so important how we word the questions.
Right.
You can't leave it too open and you can't leave it too tight. You know
Right.
what I mean? You've got to
Right.
find that sweet spot of the correct
Right.
wording.
Right. And since we're at the Akashic real quick, I want to let people right away know they don't care where you live. They don't care about money at all. So they
True.
often don't care about who you love either. So when you want answers in those areas, you have to very carefully craft the question to get the answer. Like instead of asking, should I divorce my husband? You ask, have I learned everything I need to learn with this person? There you go. That's how you word that. So,
Absolutely. Oh,
yeah.
that's great.
Or
That's
instead
great.
of saying, am I going to get more money? Saying, what is standing in the way of my financial success? Whole different question, but
Whole
yet the
different
similar
question.
answer. So, yeah.
Oh,
Okay.
I love that. Learning to craft the questions.
Yeah. So back to where we were about third party. Um, Yesterday on the psychic triad, we had a third party question where somebody was saying, my sister's husband has just died and I'd like to give her a message. And that normally wouldn't work that well because, maybe the sister doesn't believe in this, or maybe, I don't know, but not this time. That man came barreling over. I mean, he practically knocked us off our chairs. He was right there. And
And he'd only been dead, what, a week?
I don't know, not very long at all. Not
Yeah.
very long. And he had stuff to say. And it was wonderful. He was really a talkative guy. And he was, because sometimes if they're not talkative in life, they're not they're not talkative over there either.
Right.
But he had a lot to say, and it was amazing.
Can you tell us what the YouTube videos you did your past life regressions with through a video? Could you put it in the comment section after the video's posted?
Sure, I'll do
Because
that.
there's some people that are, I think, kind of interested in that. And
Yeah, so I'll do that. I will put the link to the Brian Weiss past life, so you can do a past life regression for yourself. And then I'll also put in the link to a reading your own Akashic records, because that's the first way I did it. And I was then, from then on, able to read my own.
cool.
That's
Yeah, I think
yeah.
Pat would really like that.
Yeah. And then would you want the link for Val's class? I think it's
Sure.
full, but she'll do it again.
She'll do others. Yeah, I'm sure
Yeah.
she'll do others. Yeah, I would love the link for Val's class.
Yeah, I think that would be very helpful.
Yeah,
I think so too.
it was amazing. I was amazed. I did not think I would be reading them that fast. I just didn't think so.
That is really cool. I can't believe it. You guys, an hour is up. That flew by. Speaking of going fast,
Time,
that
yes.
absolutely flew by. You have more than that, right? You have more Terry's
No,
tales for another
that's
month.
it. That's actually all the Terry tales I planned for today.
Well, perfect timing, I would say. But you have
Absolutely.
more for a future show,
Oh,
correct?
sure. My
Well,
life,
Planner says she wants that class. Teresa Hadrian said she would like that info. So
yeah,
I think a
yeah,
lot of
Yeah.
people would. That'll be handy.
yeah.
Yeah.
No,
Terry, thanks so
no.
much for being here with your tales. They're always so fascinating.
Well, I love that you want to hear it and not say, "Oh my God, you're so weird."
No,
Well,
you're
I kind
wonderful.
of think we're all weird and wonderful. So
Yeah.
it's okay to
Everybody
be
is just
weird.
wonderful, and everybody has their own gifts.
That's
Yes.
exactly right. And
And
chat,
they're
thanks for being here today. Go
Yes,
ahead.
thank you so much. It's been so interesting.
You're
It
welcome.
really
And
has.
I was just going to say, everybody's gifts are wonderful.
And they are. So do you have any shows coming up in the next day or two?
Tomorrow, I'm on at 10 with Allie Martin on Heart and Soul Connected. And then on Monday, I'm with uh, Joan
Oh, good.
Oh,
on our Magic Mondays. So,
Magic Mondays. I
that's
yeah.
like
great.
Magic Monday. That sounds lovely. Well, Heather, what are we doing on Tuesday? I've forgotten.
Uh,
And I looked at it right before the show and I've totally
yeah.
forgotten. I don't know, but we'll be live on Tuesday afternoon at 3 as usual with some
Spiritual.
subject. And then next weekend we're going to have
Yeah, I was just looking because it wasn't. I didn't see it had sent.
and next weekend we're
So
going to have eek. I don't have my phone. This is
grounding.
ridiculous.
It was on
Oh, it's on
grounding.
grounding, spiritual grounding. That's right. That's Tuesday. And then next Saturday, if I can get into my phone, go away. We have Jenny Culkin. She's going to be on. She's Starfish HHI. You
Yeah.
guys know her as Starfish as
Yeah.
well, but she will be on next Saturday.
Well,
So,
Jenny was in the Akashic Record class with me.
oh,
She's the one that
cool.
restored helped restore the connection to the to Japanese language for me.
Awesome.
Oh,
Well,
great.
so
Yeah.
she's
Great.
awesome too. That's fantastic info. All right, everybody, thank you so much for being here today. We
Thank you
appreciate
very
you.
much.
Go out, shine your light, and send that unconditional love and unity consciousness energy out to everybody. We all have the power to do that from our heart. So
Make
please
sure
do
that make sure you include yourself when you're sending it out.
Exactly. Till
Yeah.
next time. Thank you, guys.